All right, turn 24. We are, I can't even see that because I got a magnet covering it up. January 48. And I don't know if you can hear, but I got a cat meowing around my feet. And I moved everything so they can't get on my damn table. So, there we go. Well, they really can if they desperately want to, but they got to jump up 3 feet. Anyway, 3.5, I think. So, final turn's done. Germany just stacked the crap out of Berlin. Germany had a bit of a stack over here. The British and the Americans managed to take it out. The British had some bad rolls in that. They technically should have been able to take it. But it is what it is. Had the British taken this location, the Americans' plan was to use all these Marines, go through the Kiel Canal that the British own, and attack some Russian stuff. But that did not happen because the British failed to take Bohemia. So will be it. There we go. Russia came in. Russia kind of cleaned up a few things. They've managed to take a bunch of points away from the Germans and the Italians, giving themselves some points at the same time, like Thessaly and Yugoslavia together. That Germany was going to get that one victory point, but it was taken away, and that gave Russia a bit of a buffer. They had 17 of their 11 possible zones that were worth a buck, not counting the Molotov-Ribbentrop. The Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Karelia, I believe it is, or Karelia. I can't pronounce it, and I'm not reading it either because it's too far away. Anyhow, so there you go. And since it's a fine, snowy April day, I was about to go rake some leaves, and then it decided to dump down a pile of snow, so I can't see my grass again. So, loving Canada. Anyway, Russia took a bunch of stuff over here. Japan had taken a bunch of places from Russia. Each one of those places that Japan took was costing Russia a victory point. So Russia kind of spread out and took a few. I would have liked to have taken more, but I was too focused on Germany and containing them first. Even though a couple of points might have helped, it was more essential in the long run because we took away all of Germany's points, and I got some of mine back. Although I could have used those 6 points I lost. Really would have made the difference. It would have put me into 13 for Russia instead of 8. So, fun times. All right. What else happened here? The Japanese, they did some kind of odd. Oh, we're about to lose the camera here. There we go. The Japanese did some odd things here. Odd as in, it was kind of gamey because it was the last turn and I wanted to save my stuff, so I bought a pile of militia everywhere on the coast, and then I set up double blockers so that if you got through the first blocker, you would have had to fight the second blocker and not been allowed to land as well. So that was done. The Australians broke one of those blockers, and as a result, this American fleet here is the remnants of what took out half of the Japanese fleet. So, there we go. Did cost them a whole pile of three heavy cruisers, I think, 4 or 5 destroyers, and 3 fighters. And I believe they also lost, what's the word I'm looking for here? Anyway, they lost a bunch of that stuff. But the Japanese did lose 4 capital ships, so that helped out. something odd I noticed. The Americans get a bonus for having more capital ships in the Pacific than the Japanese. And the Japanese sheet says they get their bonus if they have more capital ships combined in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, whereas the Americans is only Pacific selective. That, if I'd read both of them, that might have meant that I wouldn't have left all these capital ships over here at the end of the game. But so be it. By doing that, I gave the Americans a free point. It is what it is. The Americans still lost, so it doesn't matter. Japan was the point king in this game. All right, there's a bit of back and forth. The British tried to take some stuff, failed, and then the Italians managed to take some stuff as well. So that was mainly what was going on in here. Italy also wandered in and took a place away from France. By doing that, they took away one of France's 3 points, so they got down to 2. It wasn't really required though. The Axis ran away with the points in this game. So, well, it would have been a tie between the Axis and the Comintern, except for this amazing move by the Japanese that I just didn't have enough time to counter as the Russians. And not so much that it's amazing, it's just what it was. So then that's basically the gist of the game here. France is back again, and there you go, France is back. So let's jump over here to the income sheet here. I'll take a peek at that and I'll have a quick chat while I crank you up to take a peek. Incomes are kind of not good for Italy's doing pretty good. France is back where it should be pretty much. Germany's getting absolutely annihilated. The Dutch is almost at full income. Australia is fine. FEC is getting smashed. Britain is jumping up and down because it's making almost $10 more than it should. Japan has way up there, along with Russia and the US. So it seems to be a three-way tie on who's going to win. If we would have continued the game, I hadn't really decided whether it was worth. Well, I could have continued the game, and I don't know who would have won, to be honest. But I didn't really want to do that, so that seemed like a lot of time. I might do that as a little side project sometimes, but or when you got, say, 3 or 4 guys that are playing, and they're like, you know what? Well, this is a fun and weird game. Let's just keep it going. Okay, so let's show you this. This is our grand totals here. And points. So some people might be a little foggy on points, but it's pretty simple. You look at page section 3 in your rule book, page 16, and it tells you victory scoring, right? You decided at the start were you going to do the standard victory scoring, which is just the cities, or did you want to do the alternate victory scoring where you add in the equal number of points for each alliance? If you add in these points, then they're both combined together. There you go. And every victory city is basically the city that is the capital of each played country. So, pretty simple. And you lose a victory condition for every location in your home country that you've lost. You take away a point, right? So the Germans actually had 2 points. They had Berlin, and they had I can't remember what the heck it was. Oh, the Spanish Civil War. So they had 2 points, but because they lost 3 locations in their home country, they got 0. Right? I'm not going to start giving teams negative points. That's a little bit too ridiculous. All right. So Italy, they had all 4 of their points, plus they had Rome, so they got 5. Japan had all but 1, and that 1 was the capital ships thing or certain islands in the Pacific. but Japan successfully gained and took a point from the FEC at the same time. So that's a bonus. So they came out with 9. The USSR, they have 13 of their 15, but because plus they actually have 14 points, but because of the -6 for losing 6 places that are home country, they got kicked down to 8. The CCP doesn't exist. They have no home country. The UK has 1 point because it is London. FEC's got nothing, and it doesn't have home country, but if it did, it doesn't have home country, but it also doesn't have its own city, which was worth a point, so it doesn't really matter. Anzac has Sydney, and it didn't get its 1 point because there is a ship. It had all of Australia, but there was also a Japanese destroyer that was still within 2 of Australia, so it didn't get its point there. France actually fluked out. It got a point because for France it doesn't care about Italy. It only cares about if Germany is below 24 income. The UK and the USA both cared about Italy and Germany being negative, so France got a point for that. Got a point for having no Soviet home territories next door to France home country, and it had Paris, so it got 3, but it lost 1 because the Italians took a place out of Paris, out of France, southern France there, so it's down to 2. KMT, they did get 1. They get a point if the CCP doesn't exist, but they have no home country at all, so they got 0. USA has Washington, and they got 4 of theirs, and like I said, one of theirs was the Monroe Doctrine. One of those was owning everything that they had at the start of the game. They got another one because of having more Japanese capital ships Pacific only. So since Japan has 0 capital ships in the Pacific, they just having 1 would have given them double, and they have enough to double, but if the Japanese fleet had been in the Pacific, they would not have got that point. And I can't remember what the last one was for. It's irrelevant, I guess. And they had Washington, so they had 5 in total, and no home country missing, so they got 5. So I'm just going to crank this down a little bit. We're going to show the final totals here. So what we have is the final total in cities. The Comintern had 1, the Allies had 4, and the Axis had 5. In total points, the 13 out of 18 for the Comintern, 7 out of 18 for the Allies, and 11 out of 18. Everybody gets 18. I should have just missed that there. And that's how that works, right? But then we had this -6 plus, because there was also the CCP, right? But only 6 count. So that went from 14 minus 6 to 8. The Allies were at 11, but with the 2 minus that the one that the French is missing, and I think it's the KMT is missing 1 as well that is counted here, so they're both got negated to 9. The Axis had 5 cities, 11, or 5 and 11, right? So they were sitting at 16. But because Germany only had 2 points, I only took off 2 because that's all I could take off. But there was a plus because they were missing more than they were point value for. So Axis with 14, Allies with 9, and Comintern with 8. Now I'm quite sure if I kept this going for another turn or 2, and the Americans kept up the pressure on the Japanese, and the communists kept up the pressure heading on the Japanese at the same time, and into the Middle East to eliminate the Axis, as they are doing right now, it would have been a Comintern victory with an Allies second place. Or it could have flipped and become an Allies victory with a Comintern second place. So As it sits now, the common turn is negative, but given 2 or 3 turns, that would probably have been reversed, and the common turn would have possibly been in first place. So it's one of those things. To be honest, this is 14, this is 16, and this is 11, right? You can take these back and eliminate those. Or you can take a bunch of these away and give them to this guy or something, right? So there is an opportunity for change. And to be very honest, the CCP were about to be resurrected if I went one more turn. Right here. These units, and I'm going to tighten that clamp down a little bit more. So these units here and here would have been able to move in here and create the CCP. And once that got created, that would have taken away a KMT, an ally point. It would have given the common turn some more points. They might have actually gotten 1 or 2. You either get 1 or 2 points for existing and having more than the KMT, and another point if they kick everybody out. And you never know. It's one of those things. Yeah, there's so many ways you can lose, but there's also so many different ways you can win. And once somebody commits to something, it changes your game. Anyhow, that was a general rundown on the game. Clear Axis victory this turn. Next turn it probably would have been a common turn victory. And maybe in 2 or 3 turns after that it could have been an allies victory. It's pretty up in the air. That's why the game's fun and why it's entertaining to play it as a 3-way team.